you know you gotta send that to me.
He's a tiny little guy. He's probably just as big around as my
I already
thumb.
told her, I'm like, you're videoing this, correct?
Yeah, you got front row seat there. They're not so scary when they're that size.
I think his name might be Ricky. Hey, little Ricky.
Okay, then we have the bigger brother right over there.
Older version.
Go find mom.
Older version. Oh, they're heading towards Mama. Is that what it is?
That's except for that one.
Actually, buffalo.
Leo, can you get your foot out of there?
Yeah, the original family that grew up on this island was Buffalo Tiger's family. William Buffalo Tiger was the very first elected chairman of our tribe, and it's not much known in history. But you know, for us to get our federal recognition, the United States government didn't want to recognize us because, as far as they were concerned, every Indian that was in Florida was a Seminole. So they went on the infamous airplane trip to Cuba and hung around with Castro and his brother for about 2 weeks. And then once, and Castro actually was the very first one, Cuba is the very first one that recognized that the Miccosukes were Miccosukes. And so another country.
Interesting.
So after Washington found out these Indians were hanging around in Cuba with Castro, that's how we got our federal recognition. They said, come back and we'll recognize you.
Yeah, I bet.
Because remember, that was in the late 50s, and you got the Cuban Missile Crisis and all that.
Not going to be outdone by the Cubans, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you sitting right there, hon.
Buffalo was an artist. So he made really beautiful drums, carved bows and arrows, and different
Do you see that big one?
That's Mama, guys.
Here comes Mama.
Sorry, there.
Because there's babies right there.
Go up on the higher dock. Go up on the
Yeah, it's all of us kiddos.
Mama's like, all right,
Where am I? Leo, get up here.
Come on, Mini Steve.
where's my spot? Come on, up on the higher deck.
He's like a little Irwin.
Watch your toes.
Why is it following us?
No, sorry.
Yeah, I'm coming up too, guys. We're not playing around.
What do you think?
Help me.
She's very territorial right now.
I don't blame her.
Yeah, I want to get up here too, just so I don't stress her out.
And the other one's over there.
Oh, there's still way over there?
There's a male.
Merlin's over here checking us out too. What's up, Merlin?
I like the name.
Yeah.
Is this a male?
Metallic Merlin.
Yeah, that's mom and dad's over there.
Wait, look right below us. There's a baby.
It's the mom.
Yeah.
She's upset that we're out.
Yeah, it would be
Just got to protect her babies.
all submerged underwater. And the same thing here. These babies, if we weren't here, you know, yesterday when I came up, they were all up on the dock. Because this is like the only thing right now that's out of water. So for them to get up out of water, they have to go up onto these docks. And it's not good for this island to be submerged. See, like this tree over here, over time, even though it was invasive, over time, it started dying and rotting out. And there's some other trees. This island, when we built this dock over here, you can't see it because it's underwater, but the edge of the island where we put our back post in, we're in the island. Now, because of the erosion, it's eroded back almost 3 feet because of the high water. So this island is losing island mass. And just think,
As the vegetation dies.
because the root system is what keeps it together. And just think, you know
Alligator
how many
disappeared.
hundreds of thousands of years that it took this to create this island. And a recent study has not been done. I think the last study that was done on the tree islands, where I think it was in the 80s. You'd have to Google it, and I may be wrong, but I thought it was in the 80s. And in the 80s, they were saying the Everglades has lost 60% of its tree islands. Now we're in 2020, and it's gotten worse because man keeps manipulating the water worse and flooding these islands more often. So it could be, who knows what that current figure is. Now what they're trying to do, because they've killed off the tree islands, they got this bright idea, we're going to create islands. and they're trying to grow tree islands.
I see the dirt floating in patches out there. Does the desert ever?
Sometimes after a time,
does the dirt move ever
sometimes-
and relocate islands?
Sometimes, you know, this one has built up over time because as water flows, it deposits sediment.
Yeah.
And so some of these floating muck over time, you'll start seeing other plants grow on them. And it kind of looks like they're, you know, those are little floating islands and you have critters living on them. But after a while, they might come to a place and over time start getting
Built up. Yeah.
but that's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. So just think, you know, in short time from when man colonized Florida, it started manipulating. What is it in the 20s and 30s? What's that dude Destin when he wanted to drain
the swamps
and so the farmland and people could move in and stuff like that. So think from the 30s to 2020.
It's almost.
That's a very short amount of time.
It hasn't even been, it's like been 90 something years. That's it.
Yeah, that's a very short amount of time.
So it's being taken away faster than put back.
The Everglades is being altered. I was going to take,
It's like
before
forced
we read, I was
evolution.
going to take you to a monitoring station because there's a scientist, you can Google him, Christopher McBoy. Yeah. He has a monitoring station out here and it monitors water flow and at the rate that sediment settles into the Everglades because he's studying tree island formation. He's supposed to be like the leading expert on the historic Everglades landscape. So he's studying, you know, at what rate that water flows and the sediment settles that you start having, you know, tree island creation and how the tree islands are, you know, altered with water flow and at the rate that he calls it flock. And right now it's interesting because when things like this happen that isn't natural, that also impacts, and he has to factor that in to see how that's going to change if the water is just going to be too much and too fast that particles can't settle enough for the tree islands. He was telling me that because they have altered the flow path, some of the tree islands are in a teardrop shape where the end goes more to the west. Now because they have altered the patterns, now they're seeing some of the islands start, the teardrop is starting to change that shape. So
the flow's coming from different directions.
yeah, they're sending the flow to a different direction. So I think that's very interesting, you know, because back in the period of time when they started the farming and all that, they thought that whatever they dumped into the water just flowed all the way out to the Gulf. Then over time, they realized as water flowed, all those nutrients started settling and building up in the Everglades. That's why we got so many nutrients out here. And we have a lot of what they call a nutrient sink. I think the study just ended and they're ripping out the equipment because they're trying to figure out why are there just deposits of mercury here, but not over here, not over here, not over here. And I think from what I understand, I haven't read the final analysis of it. I only read some preliminary, and what they're seeing is in the air that bladderwort, because there's bladderwort filters water. And what they're seeing is when you have areas that first get impacted where the runoff is coming into the canals, like the nitrogen, they're seeing when the bladderwort dies, it doesn't filter the water. So when the areas where the bladderwort has died, you're the higher concentration that you're getting of the nutrients. So I thought that was very interesting. There's been a lot of studies done out here, but I'm like, people